In one of our video tutorials, we talked about the Waec West Africa Senior School Certificate Examination marking scheme for school candidates, and we featured mathematics as a subject of interest. And feedback from that particular tutorial was telling us that yes, students are also in need of some other subjects, and we put out a poll out there to determine which we should prioritize, and English language came as a top choice for you students. So in this video, we are going to be covering the official marking scheme for the West African Senior School Certificate Examination for candidates in the year 2020, and the focus is nothing but English language. The exam is going to be for 2 hours, and just like we kicked off in the other video, there are some salient points that you need to note. Now I want to just draw your attention to this. Apart from the fact that you need to write your names, write legibly, look at this particular note here, this particular point. Now there are going to be featured a number of questions, but you need to answer one question from section A, and then you attempt all the questions in sections B and C. And if you are to look at section A, here we are seeing at section A, again you can see we are told that you have to answer 3 questions in all, 1 question from section A, and all the questions in sections B and C. So this is section A, and it is on essay. It is going to take 50 marks, and then again answer 1 question only from this section. So please students, don't make the mistake of answering 2 or more questions. You are only to answer 1 question, and the very first instruction is that your answer in this particular essay should not be less than 450 words. So the question that students normally have is that how do I compute 450 words? So if you want to really get that, just keep on watching. We are going to cover that extensively. So an advice for you students, you are advised to spend about 50 minutes on this section. So the total paper is 2 hours. You should ensure that whenever you are coming to the first 50 minutes, you should be moving on sections B and C. Okay, so I want you to have a look at the general guideline, what are generally expected of you on the official marking scheme, and this is as shown. Now again, you can see the rubric that you are expected to answer 3 questions in all, 1 question from section A, and all the questions in sections B and C. I cannot overemphasize this. Just ensure that you don't answer more than 1 question from section A, okay? But generally, in going through the marking scheme, the purpose, the relevance, and a number of other things are actually drawn out for you to know why you are taking this exam. And first is that the candidate's ability to use English as an effective means of communication in a given situation is being tested. Waec is interested in seeing how you can express yourself clearly and coherently in a manner that is appropriate to the audience, the purpose, the topic, and the situation for which you are being queried. Okay, now the topics are carefully selected to fall within your experience range or your knowledge which you have acquired either first-hand or through reading. Now I want to point out this, because a number of situations that are going to be drawn for you to write essay on are not things that you have passed through before. It's not really possible that all of the scenarios will fit you. Maybe you have a friend that you need to advise. That may not be the situation. But if you have been a reader all along, then you would have seen a number of scenarios in which maybe somebody have written a letter, or you have gone through your textbook, you have gone through your resource materials, and you have familiarized yourself with all these things. So student, please make it an habit to be a very good reader. That will not only develop your mastering of English, it will even help you in also scaling your exams as appropriate. All right, now for relevance, the nature of each test is clear. Okay, so Waec is focusing on either argumentative, narrative, expository, descriptive, or imaginative essay. So you should stick to the nature of the test that you are being asked. If you distort in any manner, you are going to be penalized. So stick to the question that is being asked. You may use an unusual approach, but you must stay within the scope of what you are being asked. Okay, so here in the assessment that you are going to go through, your writing will be judged in terms of your success in achieving the purpose behind the question, whether it is to entertain, to instruct, to inform, to admonish, or to persuade. Okay, so generally these are the range of factors that are going to judge you: the accuracy of your subject matter, the originality of your approach. Are you very original? Are you dynamic in presenting your point? the use of appropriate language, the clarity of your expression, how balanced you are, and then mechanical accuracy. We are still going to talk about that as we progress in this video. On the marking, you are actually generally going to be skilled on positive marking, meaning that you'll be giving credit for what you have done right, and then if you have any errors, you'll be penalized for that. So we also see the errors that Waec is focusing on that will warrant that you will have to be penalized. Okay, so those mistakes you want to avoid, and you are going to get to see them as we progress together. All right, so your assessment have been grouped into these particular 4 aspects. We have the content, the organization, the expression, and the mechanical accuracy. So for your content, like I said before, what you are writing must be relevant to the central theme, to the question that they are asking you. Okay, now in your organization, Waec is looking for you to give a good and a suitable opening, an adequate development of your points. You use very good paragraphing. Okay, you balance your work well, you are coherent, and you have a good conclusion. If you can follow this rule, like we are going to see in the example of a formal letter, there is a way that you are going to address, you are going to start, you are also going to end the essay that you are writing. Okay, now for your expression, the qualities that they are looking for is you need to be clear and give the right style whenever you are working. You should have a variety of sentence structure and type. You should use figurative language correctly if you are making use of them, and then your punctuation should be correct. There is also going to be more information on that as we progress. Now, this is the very, very important aspect that we are getting to, talking about your mechanical accuracy. Okay, so the main categories of error that they will need to indicate is error in your grammar, error in your punctuation, and error in your spelling. Okay, and for each error, half a mark will need to be deducted up to 10 marks. So half mark to make 10 marks will mean that you make 20 mistakes, and that will be 10 marks that you are going to lose. So they are giving a leverage of 20, but for students out there, you are not even aiming or trying to make any mistakes. So you should actually write in such a way that you master your mechanical accuracy, as we are going to be highlighting now. Now, errors in grammar will need to feature you using stuff like wrong tenses. You don't use the modal operator correctly when you need to use may or might, when you need to use can or could. Then you do not misuse or omit articles like the, a, and. Okay, you don't get confused or ambiguous in the use of your pronouns. You don't use they when you mean him. You don't use they when you are talking about a singular person. Okay, you don't use him when you are talking about a plural, a collection of people. Okay, then your countable and uncountable nouns, you need to make use of them. You don't make errors in your prepositions, in your conjunctions, in concord, in your participles, for your intransitive verb, and then for so many other things. Now you can see here they are saying and pointing out that, see, the list is not exhaustive. It's much more than what is written here. But if over time you have been developing yourself to write accurately, to present accurately, to practice effectively, then this should be a roller coaster for you. Okay, so now in punctuation errors, you need to note these very, very serious issues. How do you use full stop? Okay, how do you use comma? You should insert it at the appropriate place between the subject and the verb, between a subject and an object, between verb and complement, in simple structures only. Okay, how do you use small letters? The use of small letter for the personal pronoun I is being taken very seriously by Waec. For example, he said, I went out yesterday. You don't write I went out like this. This is definitely wrong. Okay, that is a capital I because it's for the personal pronoun. So if you made the mistake of writing a small I like this, then you are going to lose half a mark. Imagine a case in which you are now writing continuously in an essay and you are writing small I, small I, small I. Eventually, if you get to write it in 20 places, you have lost 10 marks already. So these are little things that you need to take note of. There is a leverage that is being given in the modality of writing abbreviations, that whether you use the full stop after each alphabet or you are consistent with just using only the capital letters, then you can be skilled and marked appropriately. The same thing with the first and last letters, which can feature something like doctor and doctor with a full stop, limited and limited with a full stop, and so on. So you have the leverage to actually just ensure that you stick to only one of them. If you are having some spelling errors, definitely Waec are saying that you are also going to lose some marks. Okay, now this is where I really want to draw our attention to, that we should really pay a whole lot of attention. The length of your composition, like I was raising the other time, for this particular exam, the required length is 450 words. Okay, so what is being graded is for them to assess maybe you wrote a short composition or you wrote a long composition. You don't want to fall either below par or too much above what they are requesting of you, because you still have some other questions to go and attempt. So these are the general rule of thumb by which you can use to calculate the number of words that is expected of you. Look at 10 words per line, for example. If you have 10 words per line and you have to write 450 words, that means you can say 450 words which you are expected to write over the 10 words that you are writing per line, and that will ensure that you are arriving at 45 lines. Okay, so as a general rule of thumb, what you need to do is your very first line in which you are starting your composition or your essay or your letter, as the case may be, count the number of words that you have there. Maybe you are starting with, "It's a great pleasure for me to be writing you this letter. It's a great pleasure," and you have your point on like that. Now you need to count those words. You are going to say, this is one word, this another word, another word, another word, and maybe let's say you have 8 of such. So on your first line you have 8 words. Then that means you are going to say, how many lines am I going to have in this particular composition? You said it is 450 divided by 8. Okay, so what's 450 divided by 8? 8 in 45, that is 5. 8 times 5 is 40. 45 minus 40 is 5. So you still have 5 here. 8 in 50, that is 6. Okay, 8 times 6 is 48. So you have 2 remaining. So this is 56 plus 2. But your number of lines should be this whole number. So if you have 8 words per line, then the number of lines should be 56. And you can see here, for 8 words is 56 lines. For 10 words per line, this is 45 lines. So most of the time for students, the number of words you write per line will fall between 8 and 10. That's why it is highlighted there. So just be considering that you are not writing a composition that is too short, and also that you are not writing a composition that is too long. Okay, even though they say there's no penalty for a long composition, but you have a time frame with which you are working, and you want to stay within that time frame. You don't want to just write on and on and on, whereas the timing for sections B and C are being wasted on this particular one. So ensure you get that accurately, and you'll be on your way to making your distinction as appropriate. So what I also want to draw your attention to is the mark allocation for the exam. Now, and it is just as given here. Okay, for the content you are going to have 10 marks. For your organization is 10 marks. For the expression is 20 marks, and mechanical accuracy is 10 marks. Now if you have made some, let's say like I used the example before, some 20 errors in your mechanical accuracy, that will mean half mark will be deducted for each, multiplied by 20, that is a total of 10 marks. That means if you are making some mechanical error, already you will lose all the marks apportioned to mechanical accuracy. That means you are going to get less than 50. Okay, now look at this. If you write on a topic that is irrelevant to the question set, you have to get 0 for content and organization. You can imagine that. That means here you have 0. Okay, that's for content. For organization you have 0. Okay, and according to Waec, in expression you will not get a mark that is more than 8. Let's even assume that here you get your 8 full marks. Okay, then mechanical accuracy will be treated as usual. Let's even assume that you got the whole 10 marks in mechanical accuracy. So you have 8 plus 10, that is 18 over 50. And you know 18 over 50 is not even up to half, it's not up to 50%. That means definitely such a person is on the way to actually fail that particular exam. We don't want you to fail. That's why we are drawing your attention to this, that you should stick to the relevant topic that you are asked to work on. Okay, so finally here we can see that for mechanical accuracy, like I said before, half a mark will be deducted, and then all of these are things that you need to take note of. The wrong use of comma, as we have said before. How do you use or omit or wrongly use full stop, question mark, inverted comma, exclamation mark? if you are using a small letter at the beginning of a sentence or a proper noun, or for the personal pronoun I, you are going to lose half a mark. Okay, if you split a word that should be written as one word, you will lose half a mark. So please, all of this, ensure that you are just very consistent to work within the guideline of the generally accepted rules of English language, such that that excellence can be your portion. And then for your assessment guide, for you to score between 8 and 10 in each of the divisions in your content, organization and expression, and of course mechanical accuracy, in which you have 10 marks already, is only if you make mistake that you will be losing half mark per mistake. So if you can develop your way in such a way that you can scale into this, definitely you will be on the path to distinction, and that is what we want for you. Okay, so we just briefly look into this and draw out points that will help you to effectively master the answering of your question and gain that excellence that you are looking for. So in question number 1, you are told that your brother, who is in the 3rd year in another school, has written to confide in you that he is about to stop schooling and go into business. Now, the mandate before you is to write a letter to him advising him against his decision. Now, a point for students to note: you may actually have a brother that is going through this and you perceive that is the best decision for him. Now, your personal interest will not come to play here, because you must stick with the purpose for which you are writing this letter. So your mandate is to write a letter to him advising him against that decision of leaving school that he wants to make. That will not stop him from doing his business, but perhaps maybe they're expecting him to finish school before going into business. So yeah, if you're going to look at question 1, now this is the requirement. Okay, and for you to get full mark, look at this: you must write at least 3 convincing reasons. Those 3 reasons should be the minimum that you should put in your letter to your brother to convince him that yes, brother, you still need to continue your education. If it is less than 3, you will not get your full mark. Look at this: a candidate who discusses fewer than 3 reasons should not score higher than 4 marks in the content. Okay, you want to score more than that, so please give at least 3 convincing reasons why you should stay in school. For your organization, now the general format for an informal letter and these following features are mandatory. You need to put the address of the writer and the date. That's your own address and the date. You need to put dear plus the first name of your brother, or you can say dear brother. Okay, at the end of your letter, you need to sign it with yours sincerely, and then you put your first name, because this is an informal letter. Okay, so all of these formal features must be present, and you should present your material in a logical manner so that you will have a coherence of idea and you are properly paragraphs to get your full mark. All right, so for your expression in this particular exam, see, is a letter to your brother, so your language must be chatty, it must be friendly, and it must reflect the warmth of a close relationship between you that you are writing and your brother that you are writing to. You don't need to be strict and very rigid. You can put in some at least jovial. Look at this: you have been told that you can use contracted forms and slang, but of course they should be with a variety of sentence patterns. Okay, so these are guidelines that will help you to effectively write a very good letter to your brother and score the mark as expected. For mechanical accuracy, we'll discuss at length about that, and so it is the discussion that we had before that will be used to grade you appropriately. Okay, so now we can move on to question 2. And in question 2, you have to write an article that is suitable for publication in a national newspaper on the topic the importance of promoting good reading habits in students. That is question 2 for you. And here, if we just run through that particular question, see, again, you are being asked that 3 points should be adequately developed for you to get good marks. Okay, if you do not dwell on the importance of promoting good reading habits, then the maximum mark you can get is 3 marks. So this is what you need to do to abide within the scope of what is being asked of you. And because it's an article, these features are very compulsory, they are very mandatory. You should have a heading or a caption or a title. Then you should put your name at the heading or at the end of the article. You don't want to just leave it, and you can imagine you reading an article from the newspaper without a heading, and at the end of it there is no sign out of the person who had written the article. No. This is the right way to go about it, and Waec is also expecting that you should do that. Okay, and then develop your paragraph well. Now, this is an article, so the language should be formal. You should not use slang, colloquialism, and contracted forms in this particular case because it's a formal write-up. Perhaps it's going to be featured in a national newspaper, so you want to write professionally in a formal manner. All right, so those are just the kind of guidelines that can be used to actually develop your content and score your marks as appropriate. In question 3, as the senior prefect of your school, you have to write a letter to the principal pointing out at least 2 practices among students that should be discouraged and 2 habits that should be promoted among teachers. Now, I want you to know this. They said you have to point out at least 2 practices among students that should be discouraged, okay, and 2 habits among teachers that should be promoted. So you have at least 4 points in this particular case. And if you look at the marking scheme again, they say there are 2 parts to this question. 2 practices among students to be discouraged, 2 habits among teachers to be promoted. A candidate that wants to earn a good mark here must adequately discuss both parts. Now, a candidate, look at this, who dwells on only one part should not score more than 4 marks. That is a point for you to note. You are asked to raise two valid arguments, at least 2 of them. If you make it 3, no problem. But if you just focus on 1, then the maximum mark you can get in content in this particular question 3 is only 4 marks. Now, this is an official letter, so the following features here are mandatory. You need to have your address, the date, the destination, and the full address of the person you are writing to, the appropriate title, dear sir or dear madam, then the title of the letter. After the letter, you need to sign up with yours faithfully, your signature, and your full name. Without this being there, you are going to lose marks in your organization. Of course, for all the essay writing, you should develop your paragraph well and link them appropriately. Okay, so in expression, again, since it is formal, the language should be formal and polite because you are writing to the principal. Okay, and for mechanical accuracy, what we have discussed before also come into play in this particular case. Okay, let's look at question number 4. In question number 4, again, is to your principal. We are being told that a new principal has just been posted to your school. You have to write a speech you will deliver at the welcome party, which is being organized for him, informing him about some problems faced by the students. So this is the highlight of the point. What is the focus here? You want to welcome the principal. You also want to notify him about some problems that students are facing in the school. So now look at this. We are told that for an award of a good mark, you should raise at least 3 points to discuss with the principal on the issues that are facing the students. Okay, so since it is actually a speech, you need to start with the usual vocatives like the chairman, the parent, the principal, teachers, distinguished guests, fellow students, ladies and gentlemen. So that is taking a scenario in which you're actually presenting to the parents, the teachers, the students, everybody that have been invited to welcome the new principal to your school. So this should be featured appropriately. So for your expression, see, it is also a formal letter and you should stick to that formality. Okay, and for mechanical accuracy, just as we've discussed before, that will also come to play in this particular case. And finally, for question 5, we need to look at how this is also being developed. Good. Now here you have to write a story that ends with the statement, I have never felt so embarrassed in my life. So that is what should be your focus. At the end of the day, you should finish that story with, I have never felt so embarrassed in my life. So now look at this. The story may be real or imaginary, but stories with animal characters are not acceptable. You don't say that it's about the tortoise. You don't say it's about a rabbit. It should be a real life imaginative story. Okay, so since it is a story, you should have a beginning, a climax and a conclusion. These are points you need to note for you to get your full mark. Okay, if you are using dialogue, then no problem, it will be accepted provided you actually present it appropriately as expected. And of course, as we have been discussing, for mechanical accuracy, all we have discussed before are also coming into play. So it is out of these 5 questions that you are expected to answer only 1 question. You don't write you write a letter to your brother and then you also love this story, you also write this story. No, out of this section A, you should only attempt one question. Okay, answer one question only from this section, and once you've done that, you will be on your way to gaining that excellence you are looking for in your exam. All right, okay, very good. Now we are into section B, and in section B you are expected to answer all of the questions. And again, look at this. Waec is also helping you to manage your time well. You are advised to spend about 30 minutes on this section. Initially you have 15 minutes in section A. In section B you have about 30 minutes, and you have to read the passage carefully and answer the questions on it. I'm not going to go through all this. I'm not going to dwell on it. I just want to draw your attention to salient points that Waec is actually focusing on in marking your exam, so that we can prepare you to gain that exam. So if you have gone through the whole comprehension, then we have these questions for you to answer. But this is what I want to draw your attention to. So for any grammatical or expression error that you feature for each scoring point, you will lose half a mark. Okay, so where you give two answers to a question and one of them is wrong, you will get 0. So please just maintain your consistency and just give the correct answer alone. If, however, both answers are correct, you get your full marks. But please just ensure that you are answering the correct thing and giving the correct answer. Now look at this. This is something I really want to draw student attention to. Where words or expressions are expected to be given to replace words or expressions in the passage, they must fit in perfectly. Otherwise, you'll be awarded 0. So like in this particular question, we have been told to replace some words like yes, you can see frantically, fraudulently. Now what they are saying is this: if you are going to supply another word that is the synonym that's going to replace this word in the comprehension, they must fit in perfectly. For example, here they said she tried frantically to introduce herself to the watchman. So if you want to replace frantically, you have a variety of options. You can say she cried desperately, or she cried very hard, or she cried with much effort, or she cried seriously, or she cried earnestly. Imagine, you can say she cried earnestly to introduce herself to the watchman. You can see that that is fitting perfectly with what is being replaced in the comprehension. Or here we also have desperately, so you can say she tried desperately to introduce herself to the watchman. You can see that that is also flowing with the sentence. So if you are using those kind of words, make sure that you actually use words that will be able to replace those words and fit in perfectly. Then an answer taken as a whole must make sense before any of it may be accepted for scoring. So you need to be comprehensible before marks will be awarded for you. So you need to know your clauses. Okay, like here there was a question in question F. Okay, that will be the next page. Who was also going to see her son in Lagos? So what grammatical name is given to this expression as used in the passage, and what is its function? So here you can see that we are being told is an adjectival or a relative clause, and it modifies the noun passenger. So you need to know this. Okay, and then think we can move on to the final section of the exam, summary, which is going to take 30 marks, and you are advised to spend about 40 minutes on this question. Now you are also going to read this passage carefully and answer the question on it. So this is the passage. I'm also not going to go through them. It's just for you to take your time, read. If you want to attempt it, maybe you can pause the video, go through them, and then also attempt it to see how well you will fare in answering the question. But the marking scheme here is what I just want to draw your attention to, so that definitely you are going to come out with flying colors even in this particular exam. So this is the guideline for the marking of the summary. For any grammatical or expression error, you will lose half a mark, just as being said before. Now if you use any irrelevant or extraneous material, 1 mark will be deducted for your inclusion. Okay, now look at this option C. For every correct answer that is not written in a sentence, you will have half of the marks. So make it a point of duty that even as you are writing your answer, you must ensure that it makes a sentence. Okay, if you are to check it out, you have to check out those questions. Look at the formatting which they ask. They say in 3 sentences, 1 for each, state 3 benefits derived from forest. Okay, so this is a composition about forest, and this is what you are being asked, that in 3 sentences. So when you are answering, you must also answer by giving a whole sentence, okay? A sentence that have its subject, its object, its verb, and you put them correctly in the format that they need to be presented. And finally, you are being told that, see, if you engage in mindless lifting, you are going to get 0. Mindless lifting means that you just take the word directly from the composition without changing any, without putting in the effort that you are actually summarizing and presenting the points in a coherent manner, and then you are going to score 0. So for this particular case, you should just note all of this. So those are the salient points that Waec is expecting, that students, you should be able to arise and do your due diligence to ensure that you score very high marks in this particular exam. We've talked about so many things, and you will do well to watch this video and watch it again if need be, so that you're actually having guides that will help you to make the best out of this particular exam. We are putting these resources out, and it is because we want you to gain that academic excellence in your subject and be prepared for that glorious future that God has in store for you. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a comment for us to have a feedback, okay? And then like the video, share with your friends, share with your loved ones, and most importantly, subscribe to DaveTuts Academy so that you will have all this video information alerting you once we upload them. And we wish you the very best. We trust that your effort that you are putting in taking time out to watch videos like this will pay off, and you will gain that academic excellence that you are aiming for. It's DaveTuts Academy, and until next time, God bless you.